nerderotic.com.
The access media, sometimes in their arrogance, willingly shows us their hands, and I admire their honesty and I admire their ignorance because it does affirm everything I've said on this channel. I broke the story about the access media admitting that they were the access media when the Sci-Fi Wire podcast admitted to throwing softball questions to creatives and actors to maintain their access. Link will be right here. This is from The Independent, and it's right there in the headline. Now that we've got a female Thor, let's topple every pale, male, and stale superhero character we can. From the very female and pale KT Roberts, stealing a few spots from original characters at the front of the box office race is not only positive, but absolutely necessary if underrepresented actors are to have a fighting chance. This is a very typical argument to somebody who's relatively new to fandom and comics or doesn't have a lot of knowledge of comics, because there are plenty of diverse characters that they can use, build up from the ground up, or use that have already been established and make films with them and make good films. You know, Iron Man wasn't an A-list character, but Robert Downey Jr. certainly helped make him one. You can do that with any character in the MCU. You don't need to replace Iron Man. You don't need to replace Captain America. But the reason they do that is because they don't really believe in diversity. They don't really believe in your cause. They believe in getting the attention so they get the free advertising. But if they truly believed in diversity, they would build a character from the ground up and put the investment in them, take the time. But they don't want to do that. This is the worst form of tokenism. But go ahead and be a useful idiot. Superhero movies are important. That's not an opinion. It's just true. No, it's actually an opinion. They are not really that important. And unless a defibrillator is going to come out of the screen and save somebody's life, it is not truly important. Food is important. Water is important. Air is important. Shelter is important, not superhero films. Avengers Endgame is the top box office film of all time, raking in $2.79 billion and watched by millions. Superpowers get bums on seats, and sneaking in social justice messaging under the radar is a tried and tested way of speaking to the masses. I completely disagree, but keep on trying. Again, this is their arrogance. They actually think it's because of the social justice messaging and not because of Robert Downey Jr.'s charm. But let's just let her go on thinking this. We'll continue. These stories have always been about underdogs proving their worth. I agree. Or those who are others finding their place. And the recent wave of heroes who truly reflect these traits is one we should cheer as it builds into a tsunami. No, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was based on the hero's journey, which is not a story that is okay to tell anymore. And it's considered a tool of the patriarchy. But again, go on thinking social justice messaging is actually going to work. Since Saturday's announcement of female Thor, she's supposed to be saying Thor, the internet has blown up with people wailing that the historically straight white male pool of superheroes is being drained for more diverse roster. No, they're switching out the male characters because it's a current trend, because of Time's Up Hollywood, and because idiots like you give free advertising and you don't even need access anymore. Many can be safely ignored, just like how Marvel Comics ignored their fans, and then their sales went into the garbage because of female Thor and SJW Marvel, leading to hundreds of comic shops closing in the last few years. We can ignore those facts just like KT Roberts is. I saw one person on social media bemoaning the betrayal of Norse myths. They were probably bringing up the cultural appropriation factor, that it's totally okay to do it with the Norse gods, but if you do it with anybody else, you will be rejected from life. A complaint curiously absent for Thor Ragnarok. Well, it wasn't absent for Thor Ragnarok, actually. It was brought up quite a bit. I'd love to know which myth has Jeff Goldblum swanning about an orgy spaceship. Well, young ones, orgies were quite prevalent in ancient civilizations and in ancient mythology, including the Viking funeral orgy. It's ostensibly more reasonable complaints of, I don't mind female, POC, LGBT+, where's the Q, characters, but why can't they make their own? That nettles me, because make no mistake, we are Villain Interrupted. My play about supervillains and prison therapy runs at the Camden Fringe in August. Highlighted my point perfectly. Oh, so she plugs her own play within her own article. I'm sure it's really good too. Please rush out and see that. And if you do, please shoot me a review immediately. I want to know everything about this play. Original characters, even the ones created by behemoths like Marvel or DC, have nothing like the traction of old favorites, meaning we're starting the race seconds before the big boys cross the finish line. Stealing a few of their spots at the front is not only positive, but absolutely necessary. So they admit to stealing, but the thing is, that's not what they're really doing. And I'm sorry to disappoint you, KT Roberts. They don't care about your cause. Right now, again, you're a useful idiot. You go out, write these articles, give them free advertising, make them look good in their own eyes, score them some woke points, and they make a bunch of money, and you will be forgotten in a couple of years. Quite apart from anything else, it's genuinely making the art better and bigger. That is fundamentally untrue. You don't make art bigger and better by replacing characters in a superficial way. You make art bigger and better by creating more of it, by creating more original art from the ground up, and then put in whatever the hell you like. But more importantly, tell us a good story. But if you're restricting the story by putting parameters around it first, well, you're generally not going to get a good one. And that's why so many films fail in Hollywood even before this mess happened, because there's too many cooks in the kitchen, there's too many rules or too many notes, and we can't get a good story. Occasionally, somebody with usually a giant ego and a lot of power can push things through, like Kevin Feige, but it seems like he's misstepping, or maybe he didn't have as much power as we thought, or maybe this was his plan all along, but it will end the Marvel Cinematic Universe, just like it's ending Marvel Comics. If you think it's going to be any different, then go ahead and walk around in your cloud of delusionment. So yes, let's plunder the male heroes, and Thor is an excellent place to start. There's a simple mechanism by which someone else can gain his powers, as shown in Endgame, which is probably the extent of her knowledge of the Marvel Universe, with Steve Rogers to whoops of glee from the fanboys now complaining. Of course, they took Mjolnir from out of time, they had to put it back. Of course, they're going to use it to get Mjolnir back. More time travel skullduggery. I was just talking about this with Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers and Mahler on a live stream on how this is going to completely screw up the Marvel Universe from here on out. Time travel is just a bad way to go unless it's the premise of your show like Doctor Who. Plus, Marvel women have a history of relegation to the sappy love interest, or worse, the feisty girl whose only power is the super boyfriend backing her up. Again, she's just talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She's not talking about the source material for which it's drawn on, but it shows her complete ignorance to what the hell she's talking about. Did she bounce this off of anybody? Was there an editor involved and maybe the editor didn't know anything? This is the problem with so many new people to fandom. They think they're automatically an authority because they bought a pop vinyl. Jane Foster's a particular victim of this casual misogyny. She spent 2011's Thor demanding S.H.I.E.L.D. give back her life's work. They capitulate when Thor asks, and the sequel, Thor: The Dark World, as a swooning damsel, showing her mettle by giving Loki a good slap while he's in cuffs, and Thor is standing right there. Finally, this is a chance for the character to ironically step out of Thor's shadow. Well, she was in Thor's shadow because Natalie Portman is 1.5 feet smaller than Chris Hemsworth. She'd have to walk 6 feet away from him to get out from under his shadow. Now, as far as the female characters in Marvel Comics, oh, how little you know, KT. There are plenty of strong females that were created by males and females over the decades of Marvel Comics, but you wouldn't know that because you haven't read a single one. Let's go over your Twitter feed real quick. So we're going over KT Roberts' Twitter here. I'm seeing just, oh, look at all that. Oh, there's something comic books. Oh, that's not Marvel Comics, though. Not a lot of Marvel and DC tweets here. Not a lot of tweets. Yeah, Harry Potter. Oh, there's one. Oh, but it's the MCU. Again, not seeing a lot of Marvel Comics going on here. So I'm not really sure how much of an authority she is. And that should be a call to arms for the rest of us in front of and behind the cameras. Women directors are few and far between and are only just starting to helm blockbuster films without a single male lead. With Chloe Zhao directing The Eternals, we're stepping out from the shadows. Then if we can step on our male predecessors along the way, all the better. And there we hear the truth. A lot of resentment, a lot of personal anger. It sounds like KT Roberts needs to go to therapy because she is a film and TV theater writer. Her play, Villain Interrupted, Supervillains in Prison Therapy, is really on the nose for her. I know this is a fringe element in fandom, but it has too much power and it has too much say, and it will end fandom. And the big flaw in everybody's logic, Kevin Feige and KT Roberts, is you're just assuming that us dudes are going to stick around, us centrist guys who don't mind LGBTQ plus characters or people of color. I even hate saying that saying because it's just people to me. I don't mind watching these stories if they're good stories, if they're characters built from the ground up. I do mind replacing characters that I've watched over decades because I've helped support, like many other male comic book fans out there, have supported and made the Marvel Cinematic Universe what it is. But all of a sudden, you don't need us anymore, or you think we're just going to stick around for this crap? Well, you know what? I'm going to kick back and watch it happen. Let's see if that happens. Let's see how long this lasts, KT Roberts, and maybe we'll be drinking SJW tears. But I'm not that kind of person. I'm not like you, KT Roberts. I don't get off on punishing large groups of people based on straw man or women arguments. I don't get off on people's misery. But for this one, I will say I told you so, and I've got plenty of time to wait, but it won't take long. Now, it was Bounding into Comics' John F. Trent who told me about this article, and he did a great rebuttal article. I will link it in the description, where he mentions something KT Roberts doesn't mention once within her article: actual characters from the Marvel Comics universe. There are many, and they are diverse. But KT wouldn't know that because, as I showed you in her Twitter feed, she doesn't read comic books. But all of a sudden, because she wrote one play, she's an authority, then I must be a god of comics. Because, say it along with me, I sold them for 10 years here in San Francisco. I am an ex-comics professional. I was also a fan since I was 4 years old. I learned to read on comic books, so try again, young one. And maybe if you just sit back and observe for a little while, you'll see things aren't as bad as you want them to be. The big difference between me and KT is, yeah, I did actually sell comic books. I was a professional, but I don't actually think I'm a god or an authority. I know quite a bit about them because it was my job, but I can always learn. And that's what KT needs to do a lot of. Everybody like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day. And not all who wander are lost.
Nerderotic.com. Please subscribe.